Ah, I have shared it. I've shared it with you as well.
Yeah, okay, I've seen it now.
Okay, so good evening. Welcome once again. All right, guys. Good evening, good evening, good evening, everyone. Welcome once again to our live interviews. Yes, this new series that we just started, about a month ago. Thank you for coming. Thank you for always subscribing. Thank you for always joining. Thank you. If you're new here, welcome to the Bukala Kadri channel where we talk everything about German language, living in Germany, and all things around that. So today we have a guest in the house, and from the title or from the thumbnails that I've been sharing, you see that we're talking about something very spectacular today, something very nice. We're talking about success stories, from basically career, some setbacks and some successes. So to put it in the right way, just please hold on for me. Yeah. So, from struggles to success, an expert's roller coaster career in Germany. It's a mouthful. Okay. So, my guest here today is no other than Mr. Sheson. I am not sure how to, I'm Yoruba, but I don't want to, mispronounce the surname. So, I'll just ask him to say his full name and then go right on to introduce himself. So, you're welcome.
Hello, hi, good evening. Thank you for inviting me over. So my name is Sheson Osoyinbi. So, but everyone calls me like Sheson or Season or whatever, but it's like Sheson. That's my name,
Okay.
Sheson.
Hmm. Okay, thank you. So, Sheson Osonyibi, thank God. So now I know how to pronounce it. So, what do you do?
So for me, I am a product designer, and product designer is more like you designing interfaces for uh, web digital products. Yeah, so that's what I basically do.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, that's nice. That's job description I really love. Okay, so what's just tell us a bit about yourself. Let us get to know you. What do you like? What are your hobbies or things like that?
Oh, well, a bit about myself. Okay. Well, I can start by saying that I I started my own design journey quite a while, like 7 years ago,
Hmm.
and it all started from this curiosity that how does digital product, how did it even work? And then I started with web design. Then from web design, I went into development. From web development, I was like, I don't think I'm really enjoying this thing. And then eventually for myself in design, just because someone needed a design in the company, and I said, you know what, I can do this thing. Well, even though I never had any prior experience, I did that and eventually became this designer that I am right now. On the side, I love playing the keyboard. I try as much as possible to play keys almost like every week, and I play for a band here in Germany.
Nice.
And well, my new hobbies after the pandemic is that I started cooking out of.
Oh, so it was just after the
It
pandemic
was
that
after the
started.
pandemic I started cooking. I just said, let me try out something new, and because food is also a way of, a different sort of creativity.
Ah.
And since then, I just dabbled into many things. But I can remember when I started cooking, it was horrible, very horrible. But eventually, I was able to scale through that. Now I can take the pictures and put on the gram and say, "Hey guys, see my food, sweet intercontinental dish."
Come on.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a bit about me.
Yeah, I think as with every other thing, when you start learning to do something, it's always seems like it's the worst, but practice makes perfect.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you can relate, especially with this because you're a designer.
Well, Apparently, I mean, you just have to learn. When you keep on learning something, you become good at it. Yeah.
Yes,
So,
yes, yes. All right, so let's start from the beginning. How exactly did you come to Germany, or what brought you to Germany?
how did I even come into Germany? I think it was. So let us take a step backwards. 2017, I when I started working actively,
Mm-hmm.
I had this idea that I wanted to travel to Germany specifically for schooling, being the fact that Germany has this free education. So I just thought, it makes sense to just try out something different. So I tried 2017 and I got the admission, but I did not have the financial capability to like travel.
Mm,
And then 2018, I gave it another try. I got the admission, but I didn't have the money.
mm,
And then one of my spiritual mentor told me that when it's your time, it's really your time. And I was kind of frustrated and devastated with the fact that I could not even get at least 8,000 euros to put in a block account or something.
mm,
And well, 2019, as the world would just like my staff would align in that sense, I kept on applying to say, what, let me try out working routes. So I started applying for jobs from January to like July, August. I would say that I applied to roughly 200 companies and I was getting rejections every single time that it got so bad that I almost just gave up.
mm,
Eventually, one company called me, and then that's how I was able to come to Germany. So the initial idea was to come for schooling, and then I got a job now, and then now the job that paid for my trip to
mm,
come to Germany without looking for the 8,000 euros to put in an account to show that I can survive. So that
mm.
was a lot of a lot of things decision making to come over to Germany. Yeah,
Wow, wow. So it was at first, you said you wanted to come to Germany
yeah,
specifically for
to school.
masters. Why?
Yeah,
Why
yeah.
Germany specifically?
Well, to be honest, it was because Germany was offering like this free education
Ah, yeah.
thing. Yeah, so school was free in Germany, and I mean you just pay a little amount of money to school. So I think that was like the best option that I think I was aware of at that time. Yeah.
Hmm, interesting. And eventually you were able to get a job that brought you here. By the
Yes.
way, the what's it called? The blocked account amount is now
Mm.
11,900 and something.
Wow. At the time it was like 7,000, 8,000. Wow, that's quite.
It's now it's 12, almost 12,000. So 11,900 and something, almost 12,000. We talked
Wow.
about it last week with AY.
Okay.
In AY, yes. Um, Interesting. So, how did you then feel when you were eventually able to land a job, and what exactly was that change that made you feel like, let me just apply to jobs? Did you have skills at this time? Do you already have the skills, or how exactly did that work out that you switched from academics then to, trying to get a job that eventually brought you here?
Um, like I mentioned for the very beginning, in terms of my own journey as a designer, maybe we can let's just take two step backwards. One of the things that happened as one of my major shifts is that I've loved anything that has to do with design, literally.
Mm-hmm.
And personally, I think I was more of a self-taught designer. And every time that I would find an opportunity to just do something like design, I would just do it.
Mm-hmm.
And the job that I now got, which was at InterSwitch later on, I was doing designing and I was also doing development. So at that point in time, I think I was already preparing myself for the international market. And one of the things I decided to now do early 2019 was to go out there online to check out what are the criteria, what do you need to become a successful designer abroad? Because in Nigeria, no one will really teach you how to design. You're just like, you do this, you do that. It's just,
Yeah.
you try out many things eventually to just get the rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like the turning point for me when I realized that all the things that I'm seeing as a criteria in in the jobs out there, I think I already have that skill set. Maybe not at par with what a designer living abroad would do, in terms of the skill set and all that. But I said, what is the worst thing that can ever happen to me is to tell me no, I'm not good enough. And just because of that, while I was applying, I began to understand what are the things that I'm very deficient at and what are the things that I am already good at. So I was really paying more attention to my deficiency and definitely also improve my presentation skills so that I can convince them that, hey, I am not as bad as you guys think. Being in Africa, in Nigeria, there's this very interesting view of how they would perceive us, and it's until when they see that, okay, these guys are not actually very bad, these guys are actually very good. And that was one of the things that I was able to, you know push through the times of rejection. Yeah.
And how exactly did you feel when you were eventually able to land the job?
Oh yeah, yeah, I did not put that feeling. Well, I think for everything you do, the most important thing is when you cross that barrier of obstacle. In general, there's this sense of excitement that eventually I was able to land this job. And I think what was even most interesting is the fact that I know that I was in development before. And people would always tell me that, why are you going into design? Because design in general was considered as, you don't know anything, you're not really a smart guy and all that. So getting that job made me feel like, all of you that have said that I'm not good, now I can show and give you the proof that I've been able to overcome, you know, and now I can now be, and I'm any heroes. You look very good and you're the smartest person in development. I mean, I'm designing, and I've traveled abroad. So I would say that these were like the exciting moments for
For
me when
you.
I saw that I got that job. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Amazing, amazing. Okay, so let's move on. When you first arrived Germany, what was the thing that what was your biggest shock or challenge when you first arrived Germany? What were the challenges you faced, or let's say the biggest culture shock for you?
Oh man, I think there were a lot of things that were really shocking for me. Number one, the language. When I got into Germany, I think February 27, 2020, I know I was super excited to come into the land and all that. And when I got to the airport, first of all, and I saw Mercedes Benz as taxis, I was like, wait a minute, this is the same taxis that you see in Nigeria, and you would look up to someone like, man, you're super rich. And then you're seen as a taxi. I mean, first, that was like a very big shock for me. And then I found an hotel where I was going to stay in, and I was trying to communicate. I never in my entire life ever would think that communication would be a problem, you
Ooh.
know. So that was very shocking for me.
Mm.
So that was on one side. Then eventually, I also registered for a meetup. And this meetup was a meetup of all designers coming together.
Interesting.
Also, when I got to the meetup, for the very first time, I realized I was a black guy. I've never believed that I'm a black guy until I came into a community of designers that I am the only black guy there. And I literally could just imagine looking at my skin and looking at everybody like, whoa, this is just like a day to my stay in Germany, though. So that was very weird. It was a big shock. And to have it again, COVID now started. So communication was hard. I was indoors, and there was no much interaction with people. And the last thing I would say that was also a big shock for me coming to Germany is that Germans are very introverted. The one most Germans are actually introverted. So they are not people that will have like chit chats, communication with you and all that. So that for me felt like why are these people being saucy and very rude, not even communicating and all that? Like what the heck is this? So those were like the compendium of issues that I was just like, wait, what am I doing in this country in the first place? So yeah, those are like my old cultural shock when I came to Germany. Yeah,
The skin color, communication, and
yeah,
Mercedes Benz being used as taxi.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That skin color, I can relate. Why? Because I mean, in if you're on the street, how you would know that Germany is different from like UK, somewhere like UK, for instance, is that in UK you can almost, I mean, you can just see black people like randomly on the road, on the streets. If I can say, there are more Nigerians there, but here, especially in some cities, not like the major cities, you then see that on the streets or in the train station when you're trying to catch your U-Bahn or S-Bahn, you are the only black in the train station.
yeah.
Only black. And until you realize, then you feel like, for me it was when I had a layover, and I saw like how everyone was white, and that wasn't just it, because obviously we watch white people on TV, right? But the fact that I was maybe not the only black person at the airport, but there were few, that made me realize that, ooh, I'm not in my father or motherland anymore.
In the longer, yeah,
Yeah, I'm now in another man's land. That was what that said to me. And then communication. Oh God. I've shared the story many times. One time when we wanted to get something. I didn't know that it was that difficult. We were trying to explain, and people were not getting it. That it dawned on me that, ooh, you
yeah,
really have to learn the language.
yeah, yeah.
You have to learn the language. Wow. Amazing. Okay, so anyways, you talked about your plan already, that you wanted to come through to study, and then eventually you got a job. So you had a plan before you moved to Germany.
Yeah.
So I think one question I'd like to ask is, why did you change from why didn't you keep trying the university route, and why did you just say, or what was that thing that made you feel like, I can now apply for a job? Was it your skill set and you just thought about it, or something informed that decision?
Man, well, I think for me is a I, I can't exactly say this is one thing that changed my mindset from schooling to work and apply for a job and all that.
Mm.
But one thing that happened was that because I tried it twice and I was being
Oh.
realistic with myself. 2017 I applied for school, 2018 I applied for school. There's no way I will get 7 to 8,000 euros at that time. And I'm the kind of person that I wouldn't like to borrow money to come to a place and just be living from one door to another. I'm not that kind of person. So I'll prefer to stay where I am and I'm comfortable and all that. But I think that where the change now happened was that working at the previous organization at InterSwitch at that time,
Yeah.
a lot of people were just talking about like they want to travel to Canada and all that stuff, and they want to go to a permanent residency, PR or something.
Yeah.
I just started thinking, I think there are better ways to really travel out of the country, and those times I was now getting really involved in the public space as a designer. So I'm always like writing something on LinkedIn, seeing people are responding to my work online. And I even stumbled on a book that says that show your work. That's the title of the book, show your work. And another book was like still like an artist. So the showing your work is how can people see what I can do? And because of that and the feedback I was getting, then I just realized that confidence began to arise in me that told me, you give it a try.
Something here.
But what now even made it more interesting is that one of my friend mentioned that Europe, you could get some jobs in Europe, specifically the UK and Netherlands, and that's how I applied to a company called Bookings. But when I applied, I got rejected. I was like, wait, if
Bookings.com.
Bookings.com, yeah. So if Bookings could look at my CV and even invite me for an interview, then I'm not that
It's
bad, like something there, I think that was what really propelled me to really pursue that area of application of for jobs than just going to school. Yeah.
okay. So let's get to the career aspect, to the career
Yeah.
part. So what were the some of the biggest challenges you faced
Mm.
as an expert trying to build your career in here in Germany?
The biggest one, I think
Some
one thing,
ones could be more than one.
yeah, I mean, I think the core thing is still communication.
Mm,
Now, the way the culture is, let's with Nigeria, for example, we are very relational as a people, right? So we're not super like direct in communication, but we just more from a relationship bit, we kind of pass the message of don't do this, you don't do that, you respect people and all that.
mm,
And when I came here, that was my own expectation of they would be very relational with me. So when I came, I lost my job 3 weeks into my stay in Germany, which we'll talk about that later on in this talk. But
okay.
the second time, because we're still pandemic, I was more like I got a new job and I was more like, I'm in a company that is German and everything looks all perfect, all good. So I was in that ecstasy. And then my manager told me, you're not even contributing to the team. You're not even saying anything. I was just like, why are you telling me to contribute? Like everything looks perfect. Like what should I really look at and say, this is a problem, this is a problem? Because I can't even see a problem. Meanwhile, the expectation is that you should talk. You should share one or two things. And after like 5 months, I was called into a room and then I was told, oh, we're not going to proceed with your probation. And that I was startled about that. Like, are you guys serious? I'm doing all the best I can do, but yet you had a different expectation about me. And so all through, I began to realize that for Germans, they are very straight with the communication, A, B, C. So go straight to the point. And it took me a while. It took me like 3 to 4 years to realize that. And that caused me a lot of issues at work and all that. But when I realized that that was important, I started putting more attention to that. Now, the second one again is the language, which is speaking German. Not because my job required me to speak German, but the advantage is that when you understand the language, it's super easy to understand how the people are really thinking, and I think I did not really do that. I did not pay attention to my German. I just like I don't care about this German. Let me just focus on my work, and that really had a very big aunt on me. Yes, it was really onto me a lot. So yeah, I would say these are like the two most important major thing for me: the communication bit and the language. Maybe one other thing that I would say, which is still about communication, presentation. We did not learn presentation back in Nigeria because we never really did a lot of presentation. Only time I do presentation is like we are just, you know, picking out things from the book and telling our lecturers, and they are okay with it. But over here, I now start learning how to communicate with people more. So, like I said, still communication, but presentation was something that I also have to still learn aside from just communicating. And yeah, those were like I would say those are like the very core things in my career that was a big struggle for me. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so three things that you mentioned.
Yeah,
The last one being presentation,
yeah,
talked about, the way they relate, maybe based on culture and
yeah.
language. So let's take them one by one.
Okay.
But I think I have a question that ties it all up together. Do you think because Germans are direct
Yeah,
and they are very straight to the point, do you think that's why I mean, you said 3 weeks.
yeah,
How do I mean 3 weeks? You're still supposed to be in the in my opinion,
yeah, yeah,
you're still supposed to be in the honeymoon phase of your new job. Like
yeah, yeah,
I just got a job, let me be basking in it. So do you think wait, hold on. I'm trying. Your manager said that you were not contributing. At
yeah.
at this point, had they communicated, being that they are very direct and very,
Mm.
had they communicated what was expected of it? Obviously, in the job description and all, but at this point, had he come to say this is what we say? What was it like?
So the I mean, this might be a peculiar thing to me. Maybe some people would not face it. Coming from the context of working in Nigeria, there is so many unstructured way of how we have been working. Unstructured. But we tend to it works for us, right? It just really works for us. And there's a lot of being reactive than being proactive in the style of work.
Mm,
Like I said, this might be is a peculiar thing to me, but my own observation is that the bulk of the time majority of us are more reactive than very proactive, as based on the cultural context. Then coming to Germany, the 3 weeks window when I came to Germany, I was still trying to get myself onboarded into the culture, into the company, and then I got laid off. So that alone was enough to destabilize my confidence level on how I would kind of present myself. Now, to make things worse for my own situation is that it was during the pandemic that I got my second job. So there was a lot of nuances on what they expect. So when I use the word nuances, it's like there's unspoken expectation. So they would not really expect them to tell me how do you contribute in the team and all that, you know. So being in that state where I'm not seeing anybody, I'm communicating just on Zoom. I don't know your verbal language and all that, body language and how you communicate and all that. For me, it's like the same way I would treat my Nigerian colleagues. And that was the attitude that I took into the second job. And it was almost like on my third month that I began to realize that, wait a minute, something is off here. Why this guy's not, why is that they're just smiling, but they're not telling me exactly what the problem is? And then one of the things that I did, and I would say it out here, just to be very vulnerable, is the fact that timing was so important in Germany. And
terms of time.
my timing, timing in terms of being late or being early to a meeting. So I was supposed to have a meeting at exact a specific time, but I did not pay attention to the time, and I was in another meeting, and my manager was so upset
Ooh.
because I was 10 minutes late or so, something like that. For people, it's extreme. Some people are just very lenient about it. So that alone was also a major problem while I was communicating. So yeah, that was part of the issues that I would say that I had during those period. Yeah, yeah,
Thank you so much for being vulnerable. Um,
yeah,
so you said there were like nuances. That's so I think this is how I'm thinking about it.
yeah,
Perhaps they think it's a normal thing that you
yes,
should be proactive, for instance,
yes, yeah, yeah,
instead of being reactive. And
yeah,
coming from where you're
yeah,
coming from Nigeria, Nigerians, the work culture is not, I mean, even companies or individuals who have a great work culture, when they
yeah,
come to Germany, in fact, they still have some things to learn.
Yeah,
So
true.
coming from that kind of place to Germany where everybody's like papa papa papa, and then now coming from that to here, there's a lot of adjustment that needs to be made. I think, do you think there should be like an orientation to say if you're coming from, these parts of the world,
Yeah,
this is what you should learn about the German, or maybe
yeah.
they just expect you to have known that already.
So I think that the situation that we are, like for being in Nigeria and being Africans, is that we are going to another person's country,
Mm,
right? Yes, even though it's a global era,
mm,
we just feel like everybody should know who we are. Likewise, we should know who they are, that kind of thing. So we just expect them to just know. And
mm,
majority of the time, many of them are not even aware of how we relate. And many of them, again, are not super exposed. They are just within that culture, German era and all that. But those people who have been able to travel out the country, I think that helps a lot in how they deal with foreigners and expats. But one thing I would say is that I think is very important for Nigerians or Africans to understand the culture that you are going into rather than just being super excited about the job. Yes, you've gotten the job, but the next thing is that how can I position myself to be successful, especially because there's a probation 6 months.
yeah,
Now
6 months
there's
probation
six
period
months,
is six
six
months.
months, yes, and that's a big time.
Long time.
So yeah, it's a long time. And in Germany, 6 months is like if you can pass it, you're good.
Yeah.
But one thing that I would say as maybe an advice for someone just listening is that there is a book, I can't remember the name of the author, but the title is called The Culture Map.
Mm.
I think the cultural mapping or culture map. I can't remember the title exactly, but it's called the culture map. I think so.
Okay.
And that is a book that I would highly recommend any foreigner who is coming into Europe, not only Germany, but in any European Western culture. I think it's a very good book to read because this will really set you up for success. I wish I knew that when I was just coming up, coming to Germany, and someone told me this early enough, but it took me a while before I knew that. So I would really advise, please, if you can lay in on that book, that would be very good.
Okay, I just googled
Yeah.
the book. It's by
The culture map. Erin Meyer. Yeah.
Erin Meyer.
Erin Meyer. Yeah.
The culture map. Okay.
The culture map. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. So let's move on. Just that I'm still on that point that you mentioned. So you said language was an issue,
Yeah.
expectations, cultural expectations, or some
Yeah.
things that based on the German culture, it's like, oh, you should know this, but coming from another kind of culture, work culture,
Yeah.
cultural
Yeah.
culture, everything was different. So those expectations as well,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
presentation. So I guess you're saying presentations, like you said in Nigeria, presentation is like, especially in the university, just a form of like formality. Let us just say this, carry this book, put it on
Yeah.
our head, and just pour it back to the. Do
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
think the way Nigeria is in terms of like advancement in education has a role to play in this?
Man, I would say yes or no. Um, yes, in sense that we were in a society where things just, like I use the word being reactive, so things just happen, and you can tell even in the education system where it's more about this rigorous hard life. And the more tougher it is for the lecturers, it's more like that is just success. So
Mm,
you can't just do things in an easy way. No, you have to pay and do things in a hard way.
mm,
And I see that also having an impact on how we perceive life. Now, the only difference between the general mass and the small bucket of people, the small bucket of people are those who are now very intentional about it, who are saying, I want to go beyond the norm. I want to read books. I want to improve myself. So there's a lot of self-improvement that can enable you to become the better version of yourself without necessarily blaming the institution or where you're coming from. So basically, the background where we are coming from has a huge impact. And you can tell in our education system, it's just totally different from how Germans will really teach people or the Western culture will teach their own students. And in terms of analytical, critical thinking specifically, we don't do much of that that really would task the brain in a critical way, especially only if you're an engineer, you're doing engineering, that's when you do a lot of critical thinking and all that. But beside that, we don't really do much of that. And that tells a lot in the way we actually communicate and also see life generally. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Interesting. So then you also talked about I don't want to belabor that matter, so let's just
Yeah.
move on. You
Yeah.
also talked about language. Do you think that if, for instance, you didn't need language for your job, obviously.
Yes. Yeah. I didn't need
Yeah.
language. Yes.
So do you think if you're able to speak the language, first of all, did you work in a like German company or an
Mm.
international company? And were your like colleagues German?
Well, to be honest, I've not really had a very smooth, straight line of career paths. So I've worked with core German companies and I've worked with very international companies. But the bottom line is that because of what we do, we are dealing with developers, we are dealing with different people and all that. I don't exactly need the German language. However, the bulk of the companies I've worked with, the core markets is within the DACH region. So, which means that we are dealing with a lot of
Austria.
uh,
Yeah,
Austria, yeah,
people speak
yeah,
German.
yeah,
Yeah.
German, yeah, people who speak German and all that. So that means that the my text, what I do every day is in German, thereabout, but I don't necessarily need to speak German to do those basic tasks. And for the people, I have worked with core Germans, and then I've worked with very multinational, different sort of group of people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
asking because, maybe I wanted to ask that, did you think that if, like, at the time in your
Yeah.
first job, you knew the language, it would have helped, it would have gone a long way in helping you, maybe relate better with them or something?
Well,
Would they have made any difference?
absolutely. It will make a whole lot of difference. Like someone speaking Yoruba to us right now in this country, like you see a white person speaking Yoruba, there is this joy on your face, like, oh my gosh, how do you know that language? Even if they just speak a word or two words, you're excited about it. So I think that also has an impact, even in the work culture, that if you could speak the language, because many of the Germans, what they do is that they speak in German in their head and then they translate it in English. And when it comes to you, it does not make any sense. Not all the time. And sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it does not make any sense. And then you have to now speak the English, they have to translate again in German in their own mind. So based on that, you lose context to
Yeah,
what your guys are talking about.
yeah.
And that's one of the things that I
I
think
think
I've
that can
missed. Yeah.
also that can also be frustrating for them.
Yes. Yeah. Very frustrating for them. Very frustrating. Yes.
And I
Yeah.
think I always say this, I don't know if it's true because there was a whole conversation about it somewhere, that I'm of the opinion and I've heard that, the same way when you speak A1 German or A2 German, for instance, you're like, my German is not so good. You tell them,
Yeah. Yeah.
then I feel like Germans are encouraging. They'll tell you, oh, your German is good. Don't worry, that's
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But the same way we are not like confident is the same way, even though they can speak at least
Very good English. Yeah,
good
very
English,
good.
they feel
Yeah,
like, oh, they can't speak English, or they
yeah,
say a
yeah.
little bit. When you say, do you speak English, say a little bit, instead of, and what they say is perfectly okay, at least
Hmm.
maybe not like an English person, or maybe
Yeah,
not
yeah,
like an educated Nigerian, because
yeah.
but they speak good. So, but they're always like a little bit. So I feel like it's the same way we feel like we don't have sufficient level, or we've not learned sufficiently enough. to
Mm.
say that, oh, we speak good, perfect German. That's the same way they feel like they feel with English.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, true though.
Maybe that's the thing, but true what you said, like in translating and thinking about it, you lose context,
Yeah,
translation
yeah.
is not proper, and that can be frustrating as well.
Yes, can be very
Mm.
frustrating. True.
So, till now, how have you been able to deal with like those cultural differences and
Mm.
those language barriers?
How am I able to deal with
Yeah, what have you about them?
the
Yeah,
cultural differences and the language barrier?
yeah.
I'm going to start with the language barrier. Well, one of the things that I decided to do was, yes, I'm trying as much as possible to practice German. I know that you're very good in German, and I would like to hear more of your story later on. But for me, as much as possible, I try to speak once in a while, but not actively. And the job that I've been doing so far has not warranted me to speak German on a day-to-day basis. So I'm quite lucky as regards to that. But as regards to the culture, when it took me, I would say it took me about 3.5 years to realize this. And I
Realize
said,
that you need to learn the language.
no, realize on
You learn
how
the
to
language.
not just learn the language, on how to navigate the culture beyond just language within the work culture, basically. So it took me 3.5 years. And in that 3.5 years, I said, I have been to an average of 4 different companies within 4 years or 5 years of my stay in Germany. 4 to 5 companies now.
Wow.
And quite honestly, that is not a very good rate of stability. However, what I've realized is that the companies that I've worked in that have not performed super well, we are companies where I was in a core German company where their audience are just mostly Germans, just Germans alone. But the ones that I've really thrived in the most is the company that is very international and very open-minded. So based on that, when I saw the pattern, I said, you know what? Now that I know I'm quite deficient in the language, then I would look for companies that are more international. But the truth is that that also comes with its own cons. The cons is that getting such a job would take a longer time. Whereas if I could speak the language, getting a job is super easier. So I would say those are like the thing behind that culture and the language. And most importantly, being in an international company, because people are really open-minded to new ideas, that helps me to bring my own self-confidence and bring my own ideas to the table. And no one is like, who are you to tell us what to do? Whereas in the German culture, mind you, I'm not talking down on the German culture itself, but I'm just saying how the mentality is, where you're in a place, you don't tell people what to do. You have to earn the trust. And that's one thing I said about German. Germans are more like, when you earn the trust, it's easier for you to now make your own say and say, we can do it this way, we cannot do it this way. For me, I came with the mindset of, why are you doing it this way? I think we can do this because of my experience. And of course, a man would generally be defensive with the idea of like, who are you to tell us what to do? And that was where I began to have issues. And now I realized in a good sense that end the trust and then bring value later on. Yeah.
Wow. So, I mean, I'm enjoying this because lots of lessons for anyone who, especially anyone who is trying to come to Germany from Nigeria. With
Yeah.
this story, they would have been able to avoid so many things. Thank you so much. So,
Yeah.
you said that I'm very good with German. We are all learning German though, in this Germany.
Okay. I have no comment for that.
We're
Yeah,
all
yeah,
learning
yeah.
German. Maybe well, I mean, I've done a bit, and some my story is on my YouTube channel. Most people who follow know the story, But I mean, I've been able to do some things in maybe compared to other people, um,
Yeah.
in a short while. So
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
I can speak Deutsch. I also wanted to react to um, the earning the trust part. You know what you said, that Germans, when they are like hard, I've heard it somewhere, I think on social media, that they're very hard outside on the exterior, but
Yeah,
when you get to like meet the really nice ones, or when they now get to like you, maybe by earning, maybe when you have now earned their trust,
yeah,
they are like very sweet.
yeah,
And I think it's still part of what we are saying, that if you know how to earn their trust by understanding the culture, by understanding what's expected of you, by understanding, their language, by
hmm,
being able to, relate with them in some things, then you'll be able to then influence them into doing whatever it is that you want them to.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
True.
you're right. So has there ever been a time where you wanted to give up and just say, you know what, I'm not doing again?
Man, I have a lot of times that that warranted me to say, you know what,
Hmm.
screw this country, screw everything. I want to go back to my country, Nigeria, and all that. And that would be the time when I joined a particular company, which I don't want to mention the name. Uh, when I joined this company, I came with a very high hope that things were going to be super exciting and super great. And coming in, I brought in like ideas. I think we can do it this way, we can do it that way. And they made me look stupid. Excuse my word. It made me look stupid that I did not even know my job. And I began to question myself, my decision. Eventually, I lost the job. And when I lost the job, I thought in 1 month or 2 months, I'm going to like get the job. Interestingly, it took me roughly 1 full year without a
Wow.
job.
A whole
I've never said this online before, so this will be the first time I'm going to be mentioning this online.
You heard it first here, guys. Thank you so much for sharing. Wow.
I
One.
I 1 full year, and that made me to feel I think I'm done with the country. And then I was trying out different alternatives. Maybe I want to leave the country. Maybe I want to try something new. Maybe I want to change my career. I mean, I thought of the most weird
Wow.
career paths, you know. And eventually I had people that I could really rely on. So I had friends, I had mentors that I could talk to whenever I was getting the rejection. And eventually they really encouraged me, and that's how I was able to persevere through and eventually try to be very positive minded. And then I eventually got a job again. And the 1 year took me a lot of learnings that sometimes life can be very tough, but it's for those who can persevere through those storm and those who are going to celebrate and be happy about the end results. Yeah,
Some nuggets, in some motivation in there.
yeah,
If you're going through whatever it is right now, especially as a foreigner living in
yeah,
Germany, just hang in there to become better. I think some of the issues is just because it's especially harder because you're new, you don't
yeah.
know this place that much, all of those things, but it will definitely get better. And you're
Yeah.
hearing firsthand from somebody who has gone through job loss twice here in Germany, and then he's now telling you that he's now a victor at the end of the day, and we'll get to that point.
Actually, it's three times actually.
Time.
Three,
Wow.
yeah, three
Oh,
times that
you're
I've
strong, go.
3 times I've lost my job. When I
Oh,
first came to Germany,
yeah.
second time, and then yeah, three times.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. Hmm.
yeah,
Thank God. So, how were you able to survive in this period when you
mm,
said you lost your job and it took you a whole year? How were
yeah.
you able to survive in that period?
Well, I'm really glad. I mean, I'm glad the fact that I have a lot of friends that I was able to communicate or talk to. And I was also in a community, like a church community, where I was serving because that was part of the way to just be joyful and not allow my current situation to really bring me down.
Mm.
So that was one of the things that I tried to do. And I think having friends around is like the best thing that could ever happen. And having family members that you could just call and um, just talk to, basically. So, and again, I'm a person of faith, and just putting my faith in God was one of the key things that I had to hold on to. Like, if God brought me to this country, I don't think God is going to leave me and put me and just make things very difficult for me. Yes, it might be tough, but it's not going to leave me and just say, to hell with you, nah. Because I know that I'm very faithful in my own relationship with God. And so yeah, these are like the core things that, or the pillars that I had placed in my life that actually helped me in those times. And lastly, I was privileged the fact that I also got some benefit from the government, because when you work in Germany for a certain period of time, like I think 33 months to, yeah, they're about 33 months, you are eligible to get some money from the government. 60% of your income or what you've been paying before, you're going to get 60% of it. And then that was what I was getting from the government for for exactly 12 months. And I also had the opportunity to also train because they also paid for my learning training or educational training. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
amazing, amazing. I like that you mentioned that friends and
Yeah.
family, the importance of always having community because, lots of people go abroad and just say they don't like to relate with other Africans like
Nigerians. Yeah.
them. I don't think
Yeah.
it's a wise thing.
Yeah.
And I probably know the reason why, they've gone through some things and, they don't want to mix with the bad crowd. But
Yeah.
you need community. You even need German community. A guy
Yes.
was on this show and he was saying on this channel, he was talking about how he um, became friends with Germans and do activities with them. He does activities with them. He has a Nigerian community and also has a German community. So
Yeah. Yeah.
things that he didn't know from like fellow Africans and Nigerians,
Yeah.
he was able to learn from
Yeah.
his community.
Diversity, I think the keyword diversity is very important because it's one thing to have Nigerian community, but because for me, the core of my own community were not just Nigerians, they were very mixed, diverse people, and I've met a lot of people who are super amazing, who were even helping me financially, like, hey, just take this amount of money. They were so supportive. I don't think I would have gotten enough of that from my Nigerian community to, not from a monetary perspective, maybe emotional perspective. So I think it's a balance between those two things, not just isolate yourself. I think isolation is not really good, but having that community is very important. Very
Yes,
important. Yeah.
building community. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Thank you,
Yeah. Yeah.
community. Then you said your Christian faith as well. You know, your Christian, I was about to quote the scripture now, but your Christian faith, that you had faith in God and that was a source of strength for you at the time you were waiting, because you said you wanted to even, I know going back home is always easy to think of, but you were not saying should I change career or stop. I
Hmm.
mean, that was
Yeah.
interesting to hear. You consider doing something else?
Hey, a lot. SAP, SAP. I considered going into product management. I considered going to learn development again because I used to be a developer before. I considered, man, a lot of stuff that I just came to my brain. Maybe that would eventually help me to start my life all over again. Because I was getting a lot of rejection as a senior designer. I was like, why am I getting rejection? Am I not good? And I began to lose doubt of myself that I don't think I'm even good. Like I'm just not the smartest guy, in the blog.
That's
Yeah.
what that can do to somebody,
Yeah.
your esteem. Wow. But I'm glad that you are the one that saw the end of this thing and we're going to get there as well. So you also mentioned that, the government was able to sponsor you for a year.
Yes, for 1 year. Yes, one
Yeah,
year.
for 1 year. Okay, so wow. So in Germany, guys, if you've worked like you said for how many months?
About, I think it's about 33 months if you're paying your pension and all that stuff regularly. And yeah, I think it's about 33 months. I'm not quite sure. So just do your own research. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So if there's also, so that's to say that there's, I don't know if that's job security now, because so I think there's a level of job security after you've passed probation. You
Yes.
can't
Yeah.
just be sacked for no reason after probation, which is 6 months. But in that period, you can say you're not doing it. They can also say they are not doing it again. But after
Mm-hmm.
that time, just be sure that no company can wake up and just say, you know what, I'm not doing again with you. And
Mm-hmm.
even if a person then loses their job, they're able to get, after some months,
Mm-hmm.
after a year and some months, I guess, or 2 years. I'll be sure to find that and put it in the comments, in the description box or the comment section. After some time, then you'll be eligible to take 60% of your salary
Yeah.
until you find another job or even do
Yeah.
further training. There's the Agentur for Arbeit that
Yeah.
helps with all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
So now, what is your like highest career achievements since, or the proudest one since you moved to Germany?
Mm. Well, I think the highest, not maybe not in terms of salary wise, because I will not put that as an achievement.
Okay.
For me, it's more about the relationship that I built and the consistency of the people when they give me feedback. I've seen patterns, I've seen growth. For me, that is like the highest of my
Oh,
achievement. I knew when I
that's
came to Germany, my communication was not as good as it is right now. The level of now being intentional about all that has really improved. So I would say that has been my own highest sort of improvement and achievement in that sense. Now, on the second level, uh, when it comes to work, because I was opportune to work in a company whereby I had to design for over 4 million users. And whenever, so a bit of a context, the company I worked for is a car sharing company. And what I designed was quite a state of the art innovation um, work, whereby you can use your phone to connect to the gas station, and then you kind of like fuel your car, and then just use your app, with your phone. So it's quite easy. So whenever I'm going out there at my random walk, I'm always seeing the application, I'm seeing the sticker that I kind of created myself and that was placed on each of the share now cars across Germany, which is now called Free to Move.
yeah.
I'm always very proud of those moments to see that I did that, and over 4 million people are actually using it across Europe. That is something that is something would
Yeah. I remember
be
you had
happy
explained something
about.
like that to us,
Yeah,
or you were showing us something. Oh, that's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
I
So
think I'm
that's
even proud
something.
to know you now that you did that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's super. I'm always with my friend like, hey, that stuff I did that. I was the one who designed that. Yeah, that's
That's
quite
so good.
interesting.
That's so
Yeah.
good. Okay, so but there's one thing. The first thing you said growth, and I think that's so deep, especially because you talked about the thing you did for 4 million users and all. That can be seen, and
Mm,
it's worth it. It's
yeah.
something to be proud of. We're also proud of you, right?
Thank you.
However, I think that growth is also very deep because
Mm,
I think growth is such a big deal. Imagine all the things that you did not know before that you now
mm,
know, and you're even sharing and telling and teaching people. I'm sure
yeah.
anybody who stumbles on this video will find it really valuable. So imagine all those things, that experiences, years of experience, and that you had to go through some things to even get there. I don't think if money were to be paid for it
Yeah.
would be
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that you'd be a better person, and I think
Yeah.
that's really deep, and
Yeah.
that's really good.
Mm-hmm.
That is such a uh, wholesome achievement, if I can put it that way. Yeah,
Well, yeah.
yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so Now, how would you define success? First when you moved to Germany and now that you're in Germany, how would
Mm.
you define success? How different is success to you now?
So success for me prior to now, when I first came to Germany, was that I have, let me use the word jackpot. For those who don't know what the word jackpot is, jackpot is the word like you've escaped from your mother country to a new country. So that for me was success for me. But there's always a saying that your problem will never end. There's when you finish one problem, there's a new problem, and there's a new problem, there's a new problem. So that for me, number one, I've left the country and I'm the first in my family to leave the country and to start working. Amazing. But now living in the country, then you realize that there's a lot of flaws because we're all human beings. And then you begin to realize that there's nothing really like, why did I really die for all this? Like, what was the point? And then that's when you begin to miss your home. And then you realize that your success is not what you really think it was. And
Mm,
that was not why I not mentioned the word growth and impact, which is having impact on people and you're seeing change. Yes, growth and change are very arbitrary, but you can put it in form of a KPI that what I used to do yesterday, I'm no longer doing it because I've seen a better perspective or a bigger perspective to things. So that for me is what I now define as my own success. However, I don't mind earning 400,000 euros. I don't mind in Europe. But again, I'm just joking. Yeah, but the point is that finance, money comes and money would go. But what will stay is the relationship. And that for me is my greatest currency, that I would say is something that I'm really, really proud of that I've been able to gain in been in Germany so far. Yeah, yeah,
wow.
yeah.
That's such a good thing. That's such a wholesome thing. Oof, my phone. Just one moment, please. That's my alarm going off. I need to. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah. So the first thing you mentioned, you said jackpot. Jackpot. At some point, all people want to do is leave Nigeria, especially with the, should I say, situation of things and all of that. But then you said that when you then moved, it was, what did you say you were proud of?
I'm proud, first of all, leaving the country because that
Yeah,
was like the goal for
that was
me to
cool.
just leave the country and then work for a multinational company. Yeah, that was like my greatest achievement and joy. Yes.
But now,
But now it's different. It's relationship. How am I able to make impact in people's life? And how am I able to see that how I used to think yesterday is not the same way that I am thinking right now. On the lighter note, like when we started this conversation, I told you I'm cooking now. I'm not the kind of person that
you
would
still
even,
cook. That's good.
I still love cooking. And I know that some of my friends who are quite international, diverse groups, have cooked for them and they were like, wow, this is really good. And
Ah,
so I would say that that's another achievement for me as a guy. And I'm proud of myself that you can take me anywhere.
to be proud of.
Rain,
So
calm,
good.
sunshine, I can cook, and I'm proud of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well done. Well done. So, I would like to ask now, what advice for people who are, looking to come to Germany
Yeah.
and all of that, what advice would you give them?
Mm,
Anyone
mm,
dreaming to start a career or to continue their career or start a life
yeah,
in.
yeah, yeah. Um, I think there are many things that one can do. One thing that is very important is If peradventure, if you're coming through two different routes, let's just start with the arbitrary level. You're coming with opportunity card, for instance, or you're coming through work. To start with an opportunity card, the goal of opportunity card is to you be able to come to the country and then apply for a job. So in that context, before you come into the country, my own advice is to take the German language, probably for till B1, because that will set you up for success when you come and you're looking for a job. Because the competition looking for an English speaking job is super high. But if you could speak the language, it helps you to be part of the 1%. That's my own advice. But if you're coming through the work culture, if you're a developer or whatsoever, wherever guys of where you are, I would you can take the culture, the language stuff, which is also beneficial. But what is important this time around is taking the time to understand the German culture. And that's why I mentioned like the culture map. If you could get your hand, lay on the book and read it, that would be some sort of a game changer for such individuals. So with that, you're already self-aware of your behavioral patterns and what you think, what you need to stop doing and what you need to do. Now, what summarizes on both ends the commonalities between the two, again, would be the language. If you can learn the language, that also really helps out in whatever endeavor that you find yourself in. So that would be the things that I would do if you're considering Germany as a country to work in.
So
Yeah.
basically, you get a job if you whatever type of company you're coming to
Mm.
work in,
Yeah.
German company or in an international company,
Yeah.
language is always going to be a plus for you.
It's always going to be a plus.
Even if you
Absolutely.
don't work directly with the language,
Hmm.
you have German colleagues who
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
living in
Absolutely.
Germany. Language will always be a plus,
Yeah.
and there are lots of resources for you to start learning. In
Mm.
Nigeria, there's Goethe Institute. I also have content on different ways you can learn German fast, different resources, free resources you can use to learn German. I
Yeah.
have lots of resources, lots of content on that. You can check it out. There's a whole playlist for that. So we're coming to the end. I know this is past 9 already, but we're coming to the
Yes. Yes.
so, any tips on finding on finding job opportunities or standing out as a foreign applicant?
I I think one thing that is, well, two things. How do you prepare your CV is very important. Getting feedback from people is also very important. Again, working in isolation is not the best, so always get feedback from people. And good thing is that we are in the AI era now, so as much as possible, leverage AI, copy, like try to copy the what they're requiring, put it in your CV, tweak it, and all that. That is very important. Um, the other thing that is important, um, I kind of emphasize it. If you can, if you're good with Google searching with on LinkedIn, that is good. But I would always say networking is the best. Uh, Network as much as possible. Add people to your LinkedIn content, and if you the little thing share it out there. Let people know who you are as a person. These are the things that will build your credibility, because when you now eventually land a job interview, you would be surprised that they would actually go check you out. So I would say that that is very important. And then in Germany, because German have very interesting job boards. So LinkedIn is one thing you can use. There is a platform called Stepstone,
Yeah.
which is mostly German. And I think there are a couple of other job boards, but mostly I'm mostly into LinkedIn as the single source of truth. Yeah, so basically these are the things that I would say. you would use. And lastly, please, as much as possible, when you get rejection, it's not that you're bad, it's not that you're not good enough, it's just that it's not meant for you, or rather, you have not been able to be at par with what they're expecting. So that is why I said getting feedback from people who are living abroad, giving you advice and giving you what to improve on is very important. And your storytelling is also very important because Germans would, if you can tell a good story and you're very straight to the point, that would really put you for success when you're having an interview.
Okay,
Yes.
so everything he said. All right, so so that we can move so faster.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So, what would you do differently if you could go back to your first year in Germany, the first 1 year you spent in Germany?
Yeah.
What is that one thing you would do differently?
Don't be too forward. Don't be too proud. Be humble. Be humble and have the sense I want to learn
That's okay.
and be proactive.
Mm,
Proactive, like what are the things that will be expected from my manager? What are the pain points that he or she has? And then proactively just do it. And
mm.
come over communicate is important.
In Germany, over communicate.
People say that your work will speak for you, but that is a myth. It does not speak for you. This is the time where you have to be proud. Now, there is being humble and being proud.
Going to
Now,
ask that, what's the
yeah, so
difference?
the difference,
How are you being proactive and not being
yeah,
too forward?
to
That,
forward. Now, being humble is being the state where I'm asking questions. I'm more like, I want to know, I want to learn. Oh, why did you guys do it this way? Why did you do that way? Now, that shows someone who is very curious and very humble. Now, on the other face of it is, I have done that thing. Hey, I just did XYZ. Hey, this is what I'm about to do. Now, that is not being proactive. And then share your achievement. Oh, we were able to make 5% in whatever you're saying. I was able to do this. I was able to picture this person. Now, that again is now being proactive and you're proud of what you are doing because you're talking in numbers if there's a opportunity to talk in numbers. So yeah, that's the difference between being humble and being proud of what you're doing because no one's going to tell your story unless you tell your story. So that is the difference between that scenario. And I think another thing that I would do differently, again, end the trust, end their trust, and the trust of whoever you're working with. That is very, 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 very important. It's going to help you a lot. And the trust.
mm.
Yeah.
So be proactive, be
Yeah.
humble, ask questions.
Yes.
Um, yeah, and everything he said again, once again. I don't want to repeat so that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fine.
So, what's something about life in Germany that you have come to love? And maybe something you still, maybe another thing you still find it hard to adjust to.
Well, I mean, what I love about Germans, or let me start with Germans, then Germany. Germans is that they are very direct. Now, it was hard for me to understand that. Well, it's better that someone who is being cunning
Mm,
and they tell you we love you, we like you, but behind they don't like you. Now, that does not mean that the human nature is not there where they gossip. It's human nature. People gossip a lot, but the culture in itself brings about being direct in the communication. Though there can be a level of biasness, but it's fine. But you know their mind. The other part on the positive side also about Germans is that I love that they are they are very structured in their thinking. And being structured, it helps you think in those logical A, B, C, D kind of step. However, for me, it's now becoming a problem because now I'm not thinking much like A, B, C, D. And whereas someone's just like, why are you just too structured in your thinking? Like, when you're talking to your own fellow community and all that. So yeah, that is like it's affecting me as a person in sometimes in a negative way and sometimes in a positive way. And one of the things I also like about Germany is that if you lose your job, you get paid by the government. Two, if you pass your probation, no one can fire you unless you are really, really bad or the company about to go down or collapse, which means that the company would also still pay you a lot of money. So those level of security, job security is really amazing when you cross your probation period. Yes, that's part of the things I would say I love about Germany.
It's still part of their system and structure now.
Yes, exactly. Thank you very much. But it's just the sad thing I don't like about Germany is that even when you tell them that should have gone to speak English or something, like they tell you no, they can't speak English. Even if you speak in English and say, "Hey, can you speak English?" They will tell you no, and then you ask yourself, "How did you hear what I just said? So why are you telling me that you cannot speak English, but you heard what I just said?" Come on,
It
So
could be
that's
that they're
always
shy or something.
Yes, so that's one of the things I think it's quite I don't like about it, but about Germany. But yeah,
Somebody is. Oh, okay.
you have a
Um,
question.
um,
I can quickly answer that question.
oh, I just saw it. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, I can quickly take it because of time.
Yeah.
So
So the person is asking that, are you saying that I moment BT has gone?
so you need to yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Are you saying that the first few weeks or months of work, you need to only focus on bringing results based on your scope of work, and not what's wrong with this thing,
And
and not based
and
of
not
KPI
being
and not be heard?
so I think I've said it in the course of our conversation. There is and
If yes, would that not be a downside to your growth and being accepted?
uh, okay. That is a very good question by Ayo. I think it's a balance, and one should not actually go into extremes. What I mentioned earlier on is how do you build trust in a new environment? And the way you build trust is, especially if you don't have that credibility that they are really looking up to. So, for example, you're coming as an head of something from Google or something, and then you're coming to a company like a small startup. Anything you say is like amazing because you're coming from Amazon or Google, right? But for someone coming from Africa in that sense, maybe not only Africa, I don't want to be very stereotypical to a culture, this thing. In any case, when you come into that new culture, you have that credibility, you have to earn that credibility. And how do you earn the credibility? What are the KPIs that they are looking out for? What can you do to make your manager look successful? Right? So by doing that, you've earned that trust. Then you can now bring your own ideas to say, hey, I think we can actually improve on this. So you don't see it as a downside, you actually see it as a level of growth. And that is the whole concept of influence, influencing people. You don't need to necessarily be a leader to start influencing other people. So if it's about KPI and that's the culture of the company you're working in, focus on the KPI and the trust, then you navigate out and begin to change the way they think. And again, I would say with this approach, you are actually growing because that's where you are being humble, and then eventually you'll be accepted without them even thinking about it. Like we just like you. That's it. That's
I think
how
that's
I approach
sort
it.
of
Yeah.
leadership as well,
Yeah.
because I mean, leadership is influence. So
Yeah.
and it's not only maybe in the workplace or something, can be with, it can be in another setting as well,
Yeah.
where sometimes you can't just come and just dump yourself on people. People have had, should I say, set in their ways already, and then you want to come and disrupt it. You can't just disrupt it
Mhm.
just like that. You have to take it gradually, I believe. And so and to let them know that, we're all in this together. We all have the same goal, and they have to be able to see that, you also have the same goal with them. You're not trying to push them down, shove them down. You're not
Yeah.
trying to be, bully them or whatever, and all of that. And then when you're able to do that, like he said, you'll be able to, be overhead safe,
Yeah.
if there's an English like that. If I can put it that way, yeah. So we are almost done. So, I'm trying to see if this question I'm about to ask is necessary. Ah, yes. So, any local habits, any German cultural habits that you have learnt or adopted that your friends and family back home will find hilarious or surprising?
Well, two things, like I mentioned earlier on, the structure is overbearing for some people. Like my brother would tell me, like, why are you just thinking like a German? Like, what's wrong with you? Yeah, that's quite hilarious. On this, I'm so sorry, but when it comes to food, I don't take spicy food almost any longer, and they find it very hilarious that when did you get to Germany that you don't take spicy food?
So,
Literally, my body just reacts
you used to take
against.
spicy food?
I take a lot of spicy food when I was in Nigeria, and I came here and I barely take spicy food, barely. So, which sounds very strange for like Nigeria not to take spicy food, but yeah, I don't take spicy food at all. Yeah,
Yeah, I think I can attest to that.
yeah,
I can attest to
yeah.
that because
So
I yeah, I
these are
think
the two things.
spice level, my spice
Yeah.
level has also reduced, but
Hmm.
I don't think I do not take spicy food at all.
Yeah,
Still,
yeah. I mean,
I
I
still
can do with that
take pepper
spice.
soup.
Well, I do take it, but it's no longer pepper. It's just soup. It's not. There's no pepper in it, so I will
Eh,
not call it pepper soup. Yeah,
okay. All right. So describe your career journey in 3 words.
I don't know if I should describe it because you have perfectly written it out on the description stuff banner, right? Roller coaster,
Oh, right,
and
that
that for
struggle
me,
to success.
I'm telling you, I sum
And
everything up to a
expert
roller
roller
coaster
coaster career.
because it starts thinking it's all good and then like whim again. So
Mm,
I would say my journey has been a roller coaster, but I'm really, really excited that those journeys that I went through just
mm,
made me a better person rather than someone who would regret and then leave out of this country. I think I'm a better person right now than 5 years ago.
mm.
Yeah.
So, any final words for anyone who is going through what you have gone through or who's willing to
Yeah.
just generally final words?
Final words, have a community, speak, don't keep yourself in isolation, don't be isolated, and stay humble. If you eventually find the opportunity to work in an organization where you want to shine, and always try to speak about what you have done, your success, your track records. It's always very good that people can attest to that to say, hey, I was successful in ABCD, and then you're part of it. No one can celebrate yourself than you. So
Mm,
celebrate yourself and don't be too hard on yourself. And if it's very hard, just keep on going because you never know. Someone else out there would also hear your own story and also
mm,
feel motivated and
mm.
inspired.
Amazing, amazing. You never know. Thank you so much. Where can people find you, first of all?
On LinkedIn, I would drop my own YouTube channel or something which
Yes,
you
yes,
could
please mention. You can mention the name.
yeah, yeah. So you can just like share some or something, but I think I would give it to you and I can put it to
Yeah,
the
the link
description.
I'll
Or,
put in the
yeah, the link.
description
Yeah,
box as
but
well.
I'm also on LinkedIn, and if you also need mentorship, I would also drop a mentorship link where you can also reach out to me for mentorship
Interesting.
uh, guidance if you need help in whatever you're struggling with in the design industry. Basically, and I'll try my best to also help if you need
So,
any advice.
so, so, what's next for you? Any new projects or any new plans? You're not planning to leave Germany, Sha.
To be continued.
Okay, but any new or exciting projects
Exciting
that
projects.
you want to share?
I don't have anything exciting right now, but
Okay.
just wait. Just wait. It's cooking. It's cooking. Very soon we're gonna open the pots.
Yes, and I'm sure it's very exciting because, apart from, I think the thing about designers is that when they like do something, it's always like top notch. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Well,
If you check his oh, somebody said great stuff. I will watch the replay. Thank you so much. So yeah, if you check his I was going through your videos a few days ago on YouTube, and you have a few videos there, and I already just love the whole, he didn't, the whole like ambience and everything. It's so good. So I've also seen maybe some of the things you have done, so I know that anything you now have that we are yet to see, but that we will see, is gonna be great.
eyes have not seen, ears
Yeah,
have not heard. So
amazing.
it's
Yes, that's
coming.
thank you so much, Mr. Sheson Osanibi. I know
Thank
you're such
you.
now.
Thank
Thank
you
you
very much for inviting me. I
for
appreciate.
coming. I really appreciate. Thank you for taking your time out to be here and share your personal story, and for being vulnerable also with us here. God bless you.
Amen. Amen.
So,
Man.
guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for joining. Thank you for asking questions. Mr. AY, I see you. God bless you. Okay, please watch the replay if you didn't catch it from the beginning. Lots of nuggets here, lots of lessons to be learned. So amazing, so introspective as well, so motivational as well, please watch, like, share, comment, share with friends. If you're planning to come to or anyone who's planning to come to Germany, please share with them as well. Till we meet again next time, God bless you. Bye.
Yeah, bye.